The doctor had been silent for too long. Not the kind of silence that came with focus. The kind that unsettled the room. Claire Dawson didn't move. She lay still on the exam table, one hand resting lightly over her ribs, the other clenched beneath the paper sheet. The monitor above glowed pale blue, casting shifting shadows on the walls. Shapes floated across the screen, blurred, beating delicate. "I count 5, the doctor said. Then a pause. Wait, 6. Michael's grip tightened around her fingers. Something changed in the air. Not in volume, not in color, but in weight. The steady beeping of the machine slipped into the background. Even the hum of the ceiling light seemed to vanish. All Claire could hear was her own breath light uncertain, and the quiet repetition of a number that didn't make sense. 6. She didn't blink, didn't cry, didn't speak. Michael leaned forward slightly as if that would help him see more clearly. His jaw was set, but not with fear, only effort, as if willing the shapes to arrange themselves into something known, something believable. Claire's eyes never left the screen. Not because she understood, but because she didn't trust the moment not to disappear if she turned away. 6. Not the dream of one, not the possibility of 2. 6 heartbeats, 6 threads, 6 tiny shadows pulsing in rhythm with something larger than words. She had rehearsed this day in her mind, first appointment, first glimpse, first sign of life. But never this, never 6. Beyond the blinds, morning light spilled across the parking lot. Inside the room was suspended. No one moved. No one knew what to say. Then Michael shifted. His thumb brushed her wrist, barely a motion. A signal. It said nothing and everything. "We're still here, and this is real." Claire met Michael when she was 29. He held doors without noticing and spoke like someone who didn't need to fill silence. They met at a community build for a public playground. She brought orange slices for the volunteers. He stayed late to reinforce the slide supports no one else thought to check. They married 2 years later, not out of urgency, but out of understanding. Michael didn't propose with a speech. He left a small note under her coffee mug that said, "Still building. Want to keep going?" She said yes with a nod, nothing more. They moved into a one-story house with a sloped roof and narrow windows that held just enough light. Claire kept the porch clean even when no one visited. Michael spent weekends repairing gutters that hadn't broken. They talked often, but not always with words. His coat left hanging beside hers, her shoes turned to face the door, a full kettle, a folded blanket, a warm light left on. Claire had once been a preschool teacher, the kind of woman who remembered which child liked the green crayon and which one needed an extra minute to zip up their coat. She didn't need to be loud to be loved. She simply noticed things others missed. When she and Michael decided to try for a child, it wasn't dramatic. They stopped avoiding and started hoping. The first few months passed like soft questions. Then came the waiting, then the appointments. Claire tracked her cycles on a yellow notepad, ate less sugar, slept with her legs propped on pillows. She read every article, twice every success story, 3 times. And when nothing happened, she erased dates quietly without sighing. Michael was steady. He didn't offer pep talks or statistics. He simply warmed the car on cold mornings, sat beside her in quiet waiting rooms, never asked if she was okay, just rested his hand on her leg when the nurse walked in with a clipboard. By the second year, the words began to change. Diminished reserve, low chance, final option. Claire listened, nodded, took the papers, then went home and ironed a small muslin baby blanket she hadn't touched in months, folded it again, placed it back in the drawer. No ceremony, just breath. They paused. Not quit, just paused. Claire stopped counting. Michael stopped searching flights to fertility clinics. They went to Nicaragua with friends, sat by firelight, let the ocean unroll in long silver threads. No one asked questions. Claire didn't mention anything. One night, an old priest with tired eyes leaned forward and said, "You carry something heavy. It's not yours to carry much longer." Claire didn't believe him, but the words lingered like smoke that clings to your clothes even after the fire is gone. When they returned home, they tried once more. No IVF, no hormone shots, just one quiet procedure, no expectations, no announcements. Claire took the test alone in the upstairs bathroom, watched the second line appear like a memory. She didn't cry. She just folded the test in a tissue and placed it in the drawer beside the blanket. At her first appointment, the nurse raised an eyebrow. "High HCG. Could be twins," she said with a careful smile. "Maybe triplets." Claire smiled back but didn't let the words land. She'd learned to hold joy lightly like a bird too small for a cage. Then came the second scan. The stillness, the doctor's narrowed eyes, the breath that stretched too long. I count 5, wait 6. Michael's fingers curled around hers. Claire didn't move. She just kept watching the screen as if those tiny flickers might vanish if she dared to blink. They didn't decide in the exam room. There were no tears, no gasps, just the soft closing of a file folder and the doctor's voice steady and clean. There will be risks. We'll talk through them all. Claire nodded. Michael signed the next form without looking at her. In the car, they didn't speak. The road home passed like it always did. Empty gas stations, rusted fences, the water tower just before the turn. Claire pressed her forehead to the window, eyes half closed. She wasn't thinking. Not yet. Her mind was still catching up to her body. That night she made tea and forgot it on the counter. They sat at opposite ends of the couch, a small lamp between them. Claire folded a napkin into a square again and again until it was soft at the creases. Michael finally said, "We'll listen to whatever the doctors recommend." Claire didn't answer. She just got up and refilled his glass. The next morning they returned to the clinic. The word came gently as though that might soften its weight. Selective reduction. 3 syllables. Too quiet for what they meant. Claire stared at the table. The nurse kept talking. Something about percentages, improved viability, compassionate logic. Michael sat with his hands folded between his knees, nodding slowly. Claire said nothing, not during the meeting, not in the elevator, not on the ride home. The house felt colder than usual. She opened the windows anyway. That evening, she stood at the sink, drying a plate that wasn't wet. Her hands moved out of habit, her eyes unfocused. The napkins were still on the table. The 6th paper crane had tipped sideways, its wing folded under. Behind her, Michael spoke low, uncertain. "We don't have to decide tonight." She turned off the faucet, dried her hands. Then finally she said, "If someone had to choose between us, just 2 people, would either of us still want to live knowing we were the one allowed to stay?" He looked at her, didn't respond, just got up and poured her water. "I don't know," he said, "but I know this: if they're already here even just like this, I want them to have a chance." A chance. Not a promise, not a perfect outcome, just the right to try. Claire didn't argue, she just nodded once. And that was it. No speeches, no vows. Only the quiet weight of a choice made fully with eyes open. The months that followed moved in stillness. Claire stopped teaching. Her body slowed. Most days she lay in the living room, surrounded by cushions, one hand always resting on her belly, not protectively, but gently, like she was listening from the outside in. Every flutter felt like a secret signal, every stillness a warning. By week 28, she was admitted. The hospital room smelled like cotton and antiseptic. Machines hummed softly around her. Nurses moved like shadows. The world shrank to numbers: blood pressure, oxygen, heart rate, weight. She memorized each beat, learned to tell the difference between silence and danger. Then came the morning of April 23rd. 30 weeks, too early but not too late. The delivery room held 35 people. 6 NICU beds stood ready, each draped with a different colored blanket. The overhead lights were dim. No one spoke loudly. Claire lay still, her breath short but even. And then in 4 minutes that stretched like hours they came. One by one. Small, translucent, unfinished. Benjamin, Caroline, Noah, Grace, Henry, Eli. No baby cried louder than a whisper. Claire didn't hold them, not yet. But as each incubator passed her bed, she reached out. One finger, one moment, one touch. That was all, but it was enough. The house isn't quiet anymore. Most mornings begin with a chorus, uneven footsteps, cereal crunching underfoot, someone calling for a missing shoe that was never really lost. Michael calls it chaos with a rhythm. Claire calls it ours. The twins Benjamin and Noah race to the back door every time it rains, just to watch the drops hit the glass. Caroline hums when she draws. Grace lines up her crayons by height. Henry collects pebbles and names each one. Eli, who came last, who almost didn't make it, never stops looking at Claire like he remembers something she forgot. And then there's Leah, the smallest, the quietest, the one who stayed behind longest. Her crib remained untouched for 4 months, not as a shrine, not out of grief. Claire dusted the mobile every Wednesday, smoothed the sheet, folded the blanket into the same neat square. It wasn't waiting, it was a promise. There would be space for her, no matter how long it took. When Leah finally came home, the house shifted again. Not louder, just fuller, like someone had turned the last page of a story and found another chapter waiting. Now at 6, Leah speaks slowly. Her words come like morning light, soft, careful, but steady. She moves with thought, pauses before every step. Some days she needs help tying her shoes. Some days she sings to herself in the hallway off key and full of joy. Claire calls her sunlight, not because she brightens every room, but because she warms the quiet corners others forget to see. People ask sometimes at the grocery store and waiting rooms at church, "Do you ever wish there were fewer?" Claire always smiles. Not politely, not mechanically, the kind of smile that lives in the eyes. And she says, "No, I just hope I have enough love to go around." Later, after the lights are off and the house exhales into sleep, Claire walks the hallway alone. She straightens a fallen blanket, picks up a dropped sock, pauses outside Leah's door, listens. Then she steps into the kitchen. The cranes are still on the windowsill, 6 of them, faded now softened at the folds. She doesn't touch them, just watches the way the moonlight rests on their wings and lets that be enough.